Welcome once again to the Semaphore Music Festival Podcast, hosted by me, that's right, Adam Simon from CrowdCast. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, the incredibly talented indie rock pop artist, Emerauld. Hailing from South Australia, Emerald's been releasing music since she was just 14 years old and has captured audiences with her stirring anthems, upbeat tunes, you name it, she's got it, all in one amazing package. And the latest single, which is My Worth. She's touring at the moment with bands like Oscar the Wild and the Tullamarines, and an amazing performance a few years ago on Australian Idol, which left a lasting impression on fans old and new across the country. And we're going to tap into that in a little while. But today, let's dive into her journey, her influences, and what it's like to be performing at the upcoming Semaphore Music Festival. So let's get into it. Emerauld, good morning. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us your story. I mean, let's start. I always like from the sound of music. Let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. Tell us the Emerauld story.
So, I first started writing music when I was in primary school. There was a bit of bullying in primary school, so music was like my really big outlet for that. And my godsend was my music teacher in primary school. He would let me skip class and sit in the music rooms, and my vocal teacher would let me sit in the vocal teaching room while she taught other students while I was meant to be in math. So from like year 6, everything was like straight music. I went to Marrickville High School. They're a really big music school in Adelaide, and they really helped like nurture different types of music within what I like to listen to. Original music wise, I really just love writing stuff that's like that will tear your soul apart, but like you can also like bop to it every now and then. It's really just like what I see around me and what I feel I should be writing in the moment.
And I get that from the music. I mean, that tear your soul apart. It's not a fun thing to do, but when it comes to music, that's some of the most legendary music of all time, isn't it? You know, songs that just, you know, there's one particular song and it's just, I've heard it for 30 years, you know, and it just changes, not just even the lyrics, but the changes in the music and soul. I described it once as every time I hear it, it's almost like they reach right into your chest and rip your heart out and leave it flopping on the floor for the next person. That emotional connection to music, when you said like some bullying and stuff like that involved, if I can ask, your music was your healing place, your music was your safe space?
Yeah, absolutely. And the bullying was right through school, primary and high school. So music really was something that I could like put all of my emotions to, and it also helps me learn more about myself, what some of my coping mechanisms might be. One of them is definitely music, but it taught me so much about myself and how I work as a human. Music has made me better, like as a person today. So I would definitely say that.
But the great thing about musicians, it's a privilege on one hand, it's also a responsibility on the other hand, that you get to share that message with other people who might be going through that experience too. And I don't know if anyone's ever come up and shared that with you, but sometimes someone will, and that can be an amazingly powerful experience for you, can't it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. What about growing up? Were you from a musical family? Were you around music growing up much?
So my mum would say that after a few champagnes, she's the best singer on the earth. But other
She's
than
after my
that,
title.
other than that, I would say that there weren't any other prominent musicians in my family, but I was definitely always brought up around music. There was always music playing while we were cleaning, while we were just having like family board game nights, everything. Bee Gees, Black Eyed Peas, Evanescence, like everything. It was great.
I don't think I've ever heard the words Bee Gees and Evanescence used in the same sentence, but fantastic cross-section. But it's that cross-section where you get that exposure. I think if you align yourself with just, I'm only going to listen to this type of music, you narrow your choices, don't you? But then I think that you're saying like you hear elements of that Bee Gees pop and then that Evanescence rock in your music. So what was the first song you ever put pen to paper on? Do you remember?
Now, this one has never been released. I do not intend of releasing it because it is such a silly little song. Um, it was, I think I wrote it when I was in about year six, year five, year six. And it was all about having an imaginary friend.
Mhm.
Um, and just like playing with them and just spending my school recesses with them or
Yeah,
spending my spare time with them because that's what made me happy because I felt
yeah.
it's really depressing because I was like I need an imaginary friend to be able to like have fun at recess time because I didn't really have anyone specifically that I would go to. So
Mm.
that's what that was about.
Your latest single, let's fast forward to your latest single,
Mm.
most recently was My Worth. I find that to be
Yes.
such a powerful song. Can you tell me
Thank
about
you.
the emotion behind the song and I suppose evolving to where you're comfortable to express emotions like that through your music?
Absolutely. So fun fact about this song, this is the first song that I wrote after about a year and a half of writer's block, almost 2 years of writer's block. Um, it's when I was going through year 11 and year 12 in high
Hmm.
school. And it was really tough for me. So I felt like I wasn't worth enough to the people around me. And I was trying to find a way to prove to other people that I was worth being around. The whole song is just all about being way too over the top with everything in life. One of the lines is being scared about how I look when I sleep. So it's like, do I look weird when I sleep? So like that's just how like hyperactive I was in my head about how
Yeah,
I looked, like self-esteem and everything. And especially in year 12, I was kind of feeling like a lot of emotions and all of those emotions were kind of just put on autopilot for a bit because I just didn't
right.
know what to feel because I was feeling too much. And so I distanced myself from everybody. My grades were dropping, like nothing was helping. And
Mm.
then I sat down with my mum. I remember this. We were in our living room. And we were talking. I was like, I need to write another song because I haven't written one in ages. And we sat there and started coming up with a few lyrics for My Worth. And within 24 hours, I had completely finished the song and written another song, which will be my next release. So
Yeah,
that was definitely like my big breaking point where I was like, wow, I can still write music because a lot of the songs that I had released beforehand, Odd Socks, for example, was co-written with someone else, but the other ones were all like written when I was like 13 or 14, or 15. So there was nothing fresh. So My Worth is the freshest piece of material and everything about me that anyone would want to know.
but I think that you show such a depth and an insight, and whether it's starting at 14 or something else, the depth and insight you have into your personal connection to your music, and then also then the arrangements of it and so on. I'm just going through the catalog here. Like I started with "What Can I Say" a few days ago, when I knew we were going to
Yeah.
chat. I thought, how have I not heard of this before? This is a fantastic song. And then you work through
Thank you.
"Odd Socks," and then "In the Silence," and then brought us into "My Worth," and it's like, oh, damn, there's only a few singles there. What's next? And I think that's a
Yeah,
fantastic thing to be able to cultivate, especially at a very young age and so on. So, have you evolved? Do you feel that you evolved since writing your first pieces up until My Worth and your next single?
absolutely. What can I say? Was up until recently I've been telling everyone that it was like a cheesy love song to myself, but
Mm,
it was actually a song about a random girl that I saw on a train and I was like, she's so pretty. So I
mm,
wrote a song about her. And then it morphed into like I started listening to more rock music, indie rock music, and that's how In the Silence kind of came out.
yeah,
Same with Odd Socks, and especially with My Worth, I was consuming a lot of different kinds of music at that time, so I feel like there's a lot of like big influences that went into that. um, so definitely evolved. My next batch of music, I've got a bit of a backlog of music going on at the moment, because my band is just emerging onto the scene a bit more,
yeah,
so I've kind of been keeping like all my music to myself, so like once I'm really like ready, I'm just going to release all of it.
yeah.
I've got the next single that I'm releasing, hopefully by the end of November, is called In the First Place.
Hmm.
Um, it's really exciting. There's a lot of really special parts about it. Technically, it's two songs, but technically, it's the same song. So, really confusing, but it's really fun. And I'm bringing in a lot of different elements to Emerauld there. And in the first place is going to be the start of a pretty much complete rebrand of Emerauld for next year.
Mm. Okay, looking forward to that. You have to keep us posted so we can see that.
Absolutely.
You've appeared already. You've appeared on so many, rising artist lists, must see artist lists in the press,
Mm.
especially in South Australia, and that's a fantastic achievement. And definitely sets that path and that motivation for the future, I'm sure. But what is it about South Australia? I mean, it has such a rich musical legacy.
Yeah.
So even stemming back to the '70s and so on. What do you think it is about South Australia that produces so many amazing musicians? But it's also such a haven for original music. You can go to
Yeah.
a pub in a venue in South Australia and you'll see an all originals band, whereas in Sydney, where I am, it's cover band and cover band and cover band.
Yeah.
What is it about South Australia and that region that you think is so supportive of original music?
I think this is something I feel like everyone would say, but that's just because of how prominent it is, the community.
Mhm.
It's so tight knit. Like, I for this festival, this is so weird, but my auntie, I found out the other day, is in the same Pilates class as one of the people that are helping run Semaphore Music Festival. And
Perfect. Perfect.
so, right, so everyone knows each other, right?
Yeah.
And the support is physically insane in South Australia. From the minute I expressed any interest in music, I had Northern Sound System support me. I
Mhm.
had a ton of different people that I was friends with who were musicians support me. And it's like, support is the biggest word that I can come up with to describe South Australia, purely just because there is such a big support for original
Yeah.
music in South Australia.
And I think it just even extends beyond that music scene, doesn't it?
Mm.
It extends to the art scene, the visual art
Yeah,
scene, and the writing community as well. I think it's always had a very strong, it's almost protective, isn't it, of its own little
yeah,
community
exactly.
there. And that community is something which definitely comes in towards Semaphore. I mean, we're talking Semaphore Music
Mm.
Festival, you're performing there on the long weekend. What are you looking forward to most about getting into? Have you played Semaphore before, or is this your first time?
No, it's the first time.
First time. So it's the festival, which it's his 20th anniversary, and that's an amazing
Yeah,
achievement for a thing where at the moment we're seeing a lot of say big festivals like Groove in the Moo or even Blues
yeah,
Fest and so on, pulling the plug, and that's the end of it. But smaller niche festivals like Semaphore, like Woodford, and so on and so forth, they're not just surviving; they're thriving in many cases.
yeah,
And I think that's what you're saying about that community is quite right. You'll see people there who have been to you'll meet people there who have been to every festival and they'll hang out with people that they haven't seen since the last festival, because it's
mm,
families, it's community. And then a lot of the artists I've talked to as well, and this is what I wanted to ask you, is that as a musician yourself, is this a type of thing where you're going to get off stage and then run to go and see another artist because you're part of that community?
yeah, absolutely. I know I'm on right before Oscar the Wild. So
Hmm.
I'm going to be, as soon as I'm finished, all of my gear is going in my car and then I'm up front and center stage. I'm like, hell yeah. I'm
Yeah,
so ready to see all different kinds of musicians play here. And then I'm going to drag my butt down to the Cumby and see Rage Fest and see all of the
yeah,
more punk musicians performing down there. I feel like this festival has a really good span of musicians. Tons of different themes, tons of different genres. I know I've played with Axe in the Ivory before, and they
yeah,
follow some really cool genres that I really like. I was at a
yeah.
showcase with them, and I love their music, and I'm just really excited to see where more of that came from.
Yeah, we've interviewed both Axe and the Ivory and we spoke with Ruby from Oscar the Wild, and it's just like,
Yeah,
hang on, it's like this, like the Trump walls are up, and we just don't hear about this amazing little music community
yeah,
until we tap into these things, and that's why we've done the podcast so we can try and share and educate, I suppose, the rest of the countries to say, here's the reasons why on long weekend you need to get your backsides down to Semaphore. But you've been doing some touring in recent months or in the past with Oscar the Wild and with the Tullamarines. What's it like when you guys all get on the road together? That sense of community and fun continues, I'm sure.
So uh, I'm excited to tour in the future. Unfortunately, I haven't toured yet. These have just been parts where I've been slotted in
Okay.
as a musician.
Yeah.
Like there's with Indie Fest. Um, that was really fun. The organizer put in a bunch of bands together, which was so fun, and it was amazing to see all of the other artists that performed after me and later into the night. Um, I haven't performed with Oscar the Wild yet, but I'm so
Right.
excited to perform with them for Semaphore Music Festival. And I've got another gig coming up with Tullamarines later
Hmm.
on in October, so that'll be super fun.
I think they're all going to be really exciting opportunities, and then
Yeah,
you can then talk about things like not only sharing stages but collaborations and so on, and really
exactly.
that thriving community is what's surviving there. So, I wanted
Yeah.
to ask you were on Idol, you're on Australian Idol
Mm.
a couple of years ago, gold ticket straight through. What was that
Yeah.
experience like?
Yeah, so it's kind of like freaks me out to think that it was literally last year when I was in year
Yeah,
12. It was like, what? Um but it was insane. There were good parts and there were bad parts. There were
yeah,
some fun parts and there were sad parts. Um Getting right through was insane. I didn't think I would get 4 yeses. I was hopeful for
mhm,
three, but I didn't think I would. But when all four of them were like, yeah, I'm like, holy crap, no way. And it was so much fun to be able to one, hug Megan Trainor. That was the highlight of my life currently.
yeah,
But to also get feedback from the panel of judges. Um, I know Harry Connick Jr. is like a super big music theory head. So
mhm,
I remember in my initial audition, it wasn't shown on tape, but he said a lot of like things that would help me like with music in the future.
yeah,
I do a lot of voice cracks when I sing, and he said maybe tone that down a little bit, and I did, and I've found that it's actually helped me in my vocal development a bit more.
yeah,
Um, and going through to Sydney was insane. I got to meet all of the other people that got through from all of the different cities and states. Um, and the producers and the crew were so lovely. Everyone was just super kind. Um, Obviously, it was sad when I got off,
mm,
but it just meant that it was my thing up until then. Like I
yeah,
wasn't meant to go any further. That's how I see it, at least.
yeah.
Yeah,
I've had some friends that have had that similar experience, and the one thing I've asked them about is like, what's the network like? What's it like when you do make it down to that final 40 and you start to meet those other people? Generally, the
yeah,
experience is quite positive. Like, it's not a. I would think it would be a little bit, a bit of a cat fight, a little bit bitchy, and so on. But they said generally experience is quite positive. They recognizing what type of music do you do, and then they might even sit around and collaborate
yeah.
and work together and so on. But it's quite supportive. And I think that
Mm.
again lends itself. But what an amazing experience for you. I mean, you were doing year 12 at the same time.
Yeah, last year it was
Wow.
crazy. I don't know how I made it to the end of the year, to be
Yeah,
honest.
no, it's like, it's like hats off to you. For how do I take it off right now? Hats off to you. That's an amazing achievement. So we've got again you coming up. What can we expect you from your performance at Semaphore?
So, at Semaphore, I've got my band with me, which is super exciting.
Hmm.
You can expect a big range of music from us. I've recently been transitioning into singing with an Australian accent, which will
Hmm.
actually become a part of my future releases. Um, so, there will be a big change from previous Emerauld performances, but you can expect some original music, some Paramore, and some fun takes on covers that you wouldn't expect.
Give us a hint. What? Give us a tiny hint. What's a cover we might be hearing?
Mad
Or we're going
World,
to save it for a surprise. Mad World. Okay, good,
Mad World, Tears for
good.
Fears.
Yeah.
It changes up a lot. It is very
Okay.
different. So
And
I'm
that's the
very
exciting
we
thing. A lot of musicians I hear, I don't want to play covers, I want to work covers into my set. I keep coming back to the Rolling Stones play 4 covers in their show. Jimmy
exactly.
Buffett used to play 4 or 5 covers in their show. And it's not just necessarily a cover, it might be a tribute, it might be a homage, it might be your interpretation of it. And I think that can keep it exciting, not only just for the audience, because they want to hear something different, but it's also for you as a musician, because you can put
Mm.
your take on a certain song. And there's no rules, is there, that says it has to be the exact chord copy exactly, chord phrasing and
Of
everything like
course.
that. It can be totally different, and that I think your voice, and say if you're going to put that Australian toning into it, I think it could
Mm.
really make some interesting opportunities and for the audience as well as you for the artist because it keeps you stimulated and that creative urge would would surge into other parts, you know, your own future music too. Excellent.
Absolutely.
So we've got another single coming out in the rest of the year. Are you working towards an album next year, or are you just taking it one by one at a time?
Originally, I was focusing on releasing an EP this year,
Mhm.
but as all musicians, I'm running very behind. So
Yes.
it's been clocked off to next year.
Just not enough hours in the day for musicians, I find.
No, absolutely not. But no, I'm very excited for this EP. It'll be my debut EP.
Yeah.
It is titled Loudmouth. It is incredibly different from everything I've ever released. Even these next singles,
Mhm.
My Worth and these next singles were meant to be on this EP. Then I started writing an extra few songs for this EP, and I was like, these songs don't fit anymore. So that's why they're being
Yeah.
released as singles.
Yeah.
And the EP is completely separate. Like, it's
Fantastic.
very different.
Fantastic. And you're quite right too. Like I was talking to someone yesterday saying, as a musician, it's not just sitting and writing and recording now, is it? It's
No.
sitting, writing, recording, rehearsing, touring, social
Marketing, social
media,
media.
website, marketing,
Yeah.
podcasts like this fantastic podcast you're on here.
Yeah.
You know, it's if you've got a full time gig or a full time study gig, it's just another full time job on itself, isn't it? On top of
Yeah.
it,
I'm really
and like,
happy that I'm in a supportive enough space to be
mm,
able to pursue music full time. Like, I'm currently a full time musician.
yeah,
Um, I've got solo gigs, I've got band gigs, but I also have to handle social media, marketing,
yeah,
other people, and it's like, wow. I can barely handle my own emotions. Now I have to handle like
well,
another 50.
yeah,
That's
exactly right.
crazy.
All the emotions and the mental
Insane.
health that goes with it, and it's all these other things
Yeah.
too. So, but you know, at such a young age, you're the CEO and chief operating officer of Emerauld Enterprises. You know, so it's a fantastic thing. I think you're setting a fantastic path, and not only at Semaphore, we want to get you in some of these eastern states too. We need to get you into Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane pretty quickly because I think there's a
That's
market
the
for your
aim.
music. I think there's an audience there for it. From what I've heard so far, it just leaves me wanting more. So, thank you so much for joining us today. Last question before I let you go.
Mhm.
What's it feel like to be Emerauld on stage?
Oh, now that would have been a really tough question a few years ago. But now I would say Emerald on stage is I just feel like a big rise in energy, right? Um,
Yeah.
I feel like all of my music is just on show, and it's a really vulnerable moment, but like all of my cares kind of go out the window, right? Um, I remember I used to be super nervous and anxious on stage. And my previous performance at the Gawler show, it started storming with rain. My guitar broke. My
Oh
guitarist's
no.
lead amp pedal broke. My
Yeah.
amp wasn't working. The Roland drum pad wasn't coming through the PA. Nothing was working, but I was having fun throughout the entire thing, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's just what Emerald does for me. It is just such a big release in energy and emotions. Um, and with an Emerald performance, you can expect to see exactly what we're feeling.
Yeah.
Both my guitarist and my bassist have really beautiful hair, so you can see lots of hairography, lots of movement, lots of jumping, and just you'll just get a really high energy performance because that's exactly what we're feeling.
Fantastic. And to catch that high energy performance, where we've got the dates here, Emerald's going to be at the Semaphore Music Festival. Festival runs from the 4th to the 7th of October. And when you're on Sunday, 6th of October at the
Mhm.
Semaphore Foreshore Reserve, 1 p.m. And then we've got Oscar the Wild, Hannah and Jesse Lee's Bad Habits, and a few other amazing bands following that. So congratulations on getting onto this lineup. We can't wait to see you there. And I'm sure you're going to walk away with new friends, new fans, and a fantastic experience. But thank you so much for your time today. For those out there who want to know more, where can they follow you online, Emerald?
You can follow me online at Instagram. That's my most prominent platform, emerald.official. Facebook is just Emerald Music, and Instagram is, and sorry, TikTok is just Emerald Music.
Fantastic. It's a mouthful to get all that out, but you've done a fantastic job. Thank you so much for your time today. Congratulations on what I think is going to be the foundations of a very strong music career for many, many years to come. When you're a big
Thank you.
star overseas and touring Europe and the US all the time, don't forget to come back and have a chat with us here on the podcast. And we look forward to seeing you in next weekend. Actually, we're coming up very soon, next weekend, at the Semaphore
I'm
Music
bloody
Festival. For
excited.
For those out there, follow Emerauld online on his socials, on all the streaming platforms to have a listen to her music. And while you're at it, don't forget to follow and like and share the social medias for the Semaphore Music Festival podcast. Emerauld, thanks so much for your time. We'll see you at Semaphore.
Thank you for having me.